There is a 5-word master secret for beating clutter, opening the sale, and advertising and achieving breakthrough results. The main point is, if everyone is automatically running away from your sales messages, then the first rule of thumb is, don't let your advertising look like a sales message. Now, many of the great books will show you control ads and ads that look very much like sales messages. And for many years, I followed those same examples. In fact, in some of those books, I see control packages, Hall of Fame control packages that I know weren't even working anymore, and they were beaten by very large numbers by other packages. And if you follow the wrong model, you're going to get the wrong results. So take all of those ads that you see. Everything is good to learn from. You can learn something from anyone and any type of ad. But the best way to learn is see what is appearing in your own mailbox. So a very good way to see what is really working. Sign up for the packages done by Phillips Publishing, Boardroom, Rodale, Agora. These are the major league players in the world of how to do advertising right. And you'll see what keeps appearing in your mailbox. You'll know what's working. And odds are they're light years ahead of what was held up as a great model from 2 or 3 years ago. So, but there is, nevertheless, you'll see an ongoing principle that's running through the latest and best control packages, and it's been this way for a number of years now since we put this, and we, meaning the whole marketing community, put this principle into practice, which 5-word master secret for beating clutter, opening the sale, and achieving breakthrough results is to make your advertising itself valuable. This applies in whatever medium that you like to sell in. Because think about it, when somebody faces that, remember that big picture of clutter we had before, the job that you're going to face when you get back is just toss. You're not looking to engage a salesperson when you're looking to clean your desk of all of the direct mail and get through your magazines. Your first priority, what can I toss? So if you make your advertising itself valuable, you make it much more difficult for a person to toss it. Even if the same headline, the same offer, if it looks like sales material, it automatically has 1 or 2 strikes against it. So now, how do we do that? For example, in space. When you're doing a space ad, it should look like an article. This is something that John Caples and David Ogilvy did talk about 40, 50 years ago. In fact, Ogilvy did a study. Many of his clients were not direct response clients. They were packaged goods and so on. But so he relied on readership studies to see what kind of response his ads were getting. And he found consistently that ads that looked like editorial articles pull or get readership at 500% the rate of ads that look like ads. So right off the bat, you can get a 500% increase in your readership of your advertising by making it look like a valuable editorial article. I know many of you, again, I know many of you are familiar with these principles, but we're going to build on this to take it to a much higher level soon. John Caples ran a split-run test once and ran the same ad, word for word, headline, everything, as an ad and then as an article in the Reader's Digest. And this is in actual orders received. The one that looked like an article pulled in 81% higher sales. And so this is a proven principle, even more so today when people have a much quicker trigger finger on getting rid of anything that looks like sales messages. Here's an example. When I was at the Ogilvy agency in the 1970s, one of our dear friends was a list broker, Walter and Joyce Lake, and they said, Gary, can you help us write an ad in Direct Marketing Magazine to help us get business? And I wrote this ad for them. It looked exactly like an article in Direct Marketing Magazine. They got a lot of business out of this. But it was advice on how to pick a list broker. Ogilvy himself did an ad. I'm just going to give you a couple of quick examples of space ads that look too valuable to throw away because they either look like articles or they have valuable information. Here's one that Ogilvy did. A lot of people like to have oysters with their beer over the summer, so Ogilvy ran a Guinness Guide to Oysters. And that's an ad that you'd want to read, and in the ad he told why Guinness goes so well with each variety of oysters. So this is not just a buy my beer type of ad. This is giving very good information about, if you're an oyster and beer fan, you'll pay a lot of attention to that, and you'll probably want to think, well, maybe I should try Guinness the next time I'm enjoying oysters down in Maryland, or wherever. You can see the headline a little more clearly. Some of these ads, they might be hard to see the headline, so I put them in the whole ad and then a close-up on the headline. Here's another one. How to take out stains. This is an ad for Rinso soap detergent, ran many years ago. And it showed every type of stain and then directions on the side, on the right, of how to get out that exact stain, whether it's grease, oil, grass, lipstick, whatever, with Rinso soap. This ad, despite thousands of other ads running on soap and detergent, this was read and remembered by more people than any detergent ad in history. It shows the power of giving information in the advertising itself. We are giving value so that you're not just perceived as a salesman or saleswoman trying to sell something. You're somebody offering service, offering tips that people will very often cut out and save. I mean, I would probably save that because I'm always staining things, so, as Pauline will attest. Ogilvy himself, he took 22 years to write this headline and ad, because it's very hard for a copywriter to write about himself or herself. It's the hardest thing of all. There's the immodesty factor, but also everything you say seems to just be bragging. So he realized this principle, and he wrote an ad, how to create advertising that sells. And this brought in, I was at the Ogilvy agency when these ads were running. He wrote a different version, how to write packaged goods advertising that sells, if they wanted to beef up their packaged goods clients. How to write travel advertising that sells. He had a whole series of them. And they were great because he gave away secrets. For example, look at the subhead to this ad. If you just imagine that you own a company and you have no idea if your own advertising agency knows anything about what they're doing. And here Ogilvy runs an ad that says, Ogilvy and Mather has created over $1,500 million worth of advertising and spent $4,500,000 tracking the results. Here, with all the dogmatism of brevity, are 38 of the things we have learned. And great tips. Almost gives away all of the secrets that he probably wishes most of his art directors and copywriters would follow more religiously. And that's true, by the way. When I joined the Ogilvy agency, he said, nobody should be allowed to have anything to do with advertising in my company unless they read Claude Hopkins' book, Scientific Advertising, 7 times. And so I was very young, I wanted to be a dutiful new employee, so I went to the library and I saw the last person to take out that book was like 7 years ago. So not even at a big agency where you have a master like Ogilvy, a lot of people just don't seem to think that they need to learn much about advertising because they're so creative. But when you get into direct marketing and your results are measured, of course, then the results are there for all to see. This was another one, and we'll move quickly through these. What everyone should know about the stock and bond business. And this ad featured, I think, let's see, 6,540 words. It ran in the New York Times. And it was a buried offer, no coupon. It pulled 10,000 responses from a single ad. And so if somebody ever says, long copy doesn't sell, who's going to read all that? Well, they got 10,000 responses from that one ad. And they ran it, frequently after that. You could build a very large business getting 10,000 responses or so every time you run an ad. And here's one from a magazine I just saw the other day, New York Magazine, Better Than Botox, about a cosmetic that can give even better results, according to the claim anyway, as Botox. It's not exactly an article, but it has that editorial feel. One thing that is a very deft touch is a question mark after the headline. It doesn't scream a benefit that's hype and that you're not sure you can believe it. It's raising the question, is this better than Botox? It also gives you a lot of flexibility in what you can say, because you're not saying that it is, you're just raising a question. But it sure gets the message across very quickly. Okay, how do we move this into direct mail? Well, the number one way that you can ever get a response and attention of your prospect in direct mail is to try a FedEx package. Obviously, it's very expensive. But whenever I had to send a proposal to a client that I really wanted that client to read, and we work in fundraising, and if you're ever sending a proposal to a major donor and you want that person to really consider your cause with a major gift, we always send it in with a FedEx envelope. Nothing gets opened more than a FedEx envelope. Again, this is all under the category of how do we open the sale in a way that does not look like salesmanship, sales letter. That does not. You have to open a FedEx envelope. There's no way you cannot open that. Also, it might be a lawsuit. It might be who knows what. You have to open it. There's also, if you can't afford that, just a personal letter. always, you have to open that. It doesn't look like it's manufactured by the millions, and so you have to open a letter like that. Now, you might say, thinking about FedEx envelopes or personal letters, no, we can't afford that. That's really way beyond our price point. Are you thinking like marketers still? If your prospects are telling you, I will always open this, you will always get my attention above anything else if you send me a FedEx package, might it not be worthwhile, at least as a brainstorming exercise, to see if you can get margins big enough in some really super duper products that your prospects may love and try to use this wonderful vehicle? Because the vehicle is much rarer than products are. I mean, if there's one vehicle that will always get opened and you just write it off because that doesn't fit the products we're selling, maybe the products you're selling has to be adjusted to what your prospects will always open with great interest. Because if we're still thinking like marketers, it would be like saying, well, my fishing pole is too small to catch that big fish over there, so I'll just let him go. Get a new fishing pole. Get a new, if you have 100,000 names on your house list, there have got to be 5,000 people, I would guess, who tomorrow, with the right sales pitch coming in a FedEx envelope, will send you a check for $5,000. So what is that? It's $25 million. Is that worth exploring? Could we ever come up with wherever we are now, whatever product, could we ever come up with a product that could sell for $5,000 to a very small, exclusive part of our list? Worth brainstorming about, because those people are out there. Just because they're buying something inexpensive from you now does not mean that they don't have a lot of money that they would give you if you gave them a good enough presentation, product, and sales pitch. So, and the same true is for personal letters. Don't adjust the size of what you're asking for to the usual way that you've been doing things, because that's thinking like a marketer and not like the prospect, thinking like the fisherman, not the fish. Another way to do this is to apply what I call the crackerjack secret, where nobody in the history of the world, as far as I can tell, has ever thrown away a crackerjack box without first rummaging to get the little prize inside, even though it's worth maybe half a penny, whatever. So we can do that in direct mail. And the main way that we started doing this, you know, when some of us realized this technique, it's probably been a technique around for a long time, is to give a very good piece. I don't mean a plastic trinket or something gimmicky. The best thing you can give away in a direct mail package is information of great value to your client. So I once had to write a direct mail package for a survivalist newsletter. A newsletter going to people who really like to get away from the cities in case a nuclear holocaust is coming or whatever. There's a very strong segment of those people out there. And we gave them a survival checklist enclosed. This was a very big winner. And if you're into that market, if you're passionate about that feeling, you could not throw that away. So if you're tossing your mail out, you will not toss that out if you're a survivalist and you know they're really into checklists. How many cans of tuna fish do I have to have in the basement and so on? You know you can't throw that away. So that's the goal here: is to make your advertising too valuable to throw away. And generally in magalogs and other vehicles, bookalogs, you may go as high as 50% of your selling space, of your real estate, to give away great information, and 50% to sell. Not a bad ratio to shoot for. Don't just. After we got going with this principle, and we started seeing control after control was being beaten by not trying to sell something straight out, but enclosing something, we started coming up with lots of different ways to do it. For example, is Ed Elliott in the room? Is Ed here? Oh, hi, Ed. So good to see you. Ed Elliott, we're very privileged to have Ed here. Now he's head of creative services at Philips. But many years ago, he was a designer, the co-inventor of the Magalog. Now, Ed, imagine if you had patented that somehow or copyrighted it. Every Magalog ever since. Of course, it's impossible to copyright because it's just a design concept. But so Ed and Jim, a copyright named Jim Rutz, were the first to come up with this. And the version that I did came after theirs. When I saw the tremendous, as soon as I saw the first Magalog, I said, oh, this is it. In space, we've always been able to emulate editorial articles, but I could never figure out a way to do this in direct mail, because a direct mail letter is a direct mail letter. But they did this. They said, no, it can look like a magazine. And so this is one that I did with Vicki Moffat. Is Vicki here? Oh, hi, Vicki. How are you? And this was just a blockbuster. I mean, this brought people. We made Richard Band look like sort of Man of the Year on Time. We intentionally took Time's red border. And I think, Vicki, you got a phone call from lawyers at Time saying, that's our color, what are you doing? So we said, what do you mean that's your color? You can't copyright a color. And they said, well, we have 300 lawyers who say we can. So we said, all right, it's blue, and the next mailing is blue. It's no problem. So it became a blue border next time, and it worked almost as well. But it was hottest investment opportunities of the year, and right in the mailing, Richard Ban, the editor, described some of these great number one growth stock for the year ahead, U.S. Treasury deal of your life. Great investment ideas that were examples of, when you subscribe to his newsletter, this is the kind of information that you're going to be getting. Tremendous success. Here's another one that I had done for Boardroom around the same time. In fact, I just got this recently from Brian Kurtz. Where's Brian? Brian, hi Brian. Brian had his people that done many packages with Brian and the good people at Boardroom. This was the control. I wish I had an overhead, but I can just show it. It says bills, it's okay to pay late. Traditional, conventional, direct, and very strong in its day, direct mail package. Classic number 10 envelope, classic Boardroom style, bills it's okay to pay late, what never to eat on an airplane. There's little bullets that you can't resist with Boardroom style. And you would go in, you'd see the letter, and to get these secrets, you would send away for a book that they were offering as a premium. Okay, that was the control. And this had beaten many, many controls before it. I mean, Gene Schwartz and many other famous copywriters, Mel Martin. This was the Darwinian evolution up to that moment of the best you can do for Brian Kurtz and Boardroom. Okay, compare that to the next package. Well, here's the envelope that it came in. Using this principle, which when only a few of us were realizing its tremendous power, we had the whole world to ourselves. It's gotten more difficult now that you other smart copywriters have caught on to this. But compared to this, which obviously looks like I'm trying to sell you something, but it's very interesting, compared to this, your little black book enclosed. Now, can you throw this away? I mean, you might, but you kind of wonder, whose black book? What is this black book? And then when you got to the inside, this is the piece that you would see. And it was filled right on the cover there. You'll see, right in this little booklet, we're going to tell you the safest seat on an airplane and the scary reason why. If you win the lottery, do this immediately with your winning ticket to protect your winnings. World's most effective hiccup cure. What it means if you have cold hands. And all of these very intriguing secrets were printed right on the front cover, and you'll know that you could go right into this book. This is immediate gratification. It's not saying, as the old school of advertising did, big benefit, send away for the book and you get the answer. Right now, open this booklet and you've got some really interesting information that you're going to discover. Immediate gratification. And then those are used as examples throughout of mutual funds. Many of these types of mailings with Bob King and Rich Staten Jones at Phillips. This is really an intriguing one. If I was still actively copywriting, I wouldn't tell you the secret because it's too good. But now that I'm retired, I can spill all. This is something that I don't think anyone's ever talked about, because even when you get it, you don't even realize what it's doing. This is called a Trojan Horse Welcome Package. What this is, I was thinking, well, you've got to have something when something is valuable, people keep it and open it. Now, most of our prospects are, if they're on the list, it shows that they've bought things before. And so I very often will send away for something, and it arrives, I'll look at it. My first impulse is, did I buy this? I better look at it. I'm not sure if it looks like a premium or booklet. And that's what this is designed to do. Look just like the thing that you get after you subscribed. And so this says, it says the Trojan, no, it doesn't say that. It says it says the solid gold treasury of inside information. That was my title, the Trojan Horse Welcome Package. And the subhead there says, a one-volume gold mine of the best secrets ever published in Bottom Line, America's #1 magazine of inside information. Your free welcome bonus from Bottom Line. Oh, welcome bonus. Did I send this? Are they going to bill me for something I didn't send? You have to look. You have to see what's going on. And when you get inside the package, you say something like, I'd like to welcome you to the Bottom Line family and show you our best ideas. And if you like them, you can subscribe and get a lot more. But the interior is designed to look like a beautiful premium that you receive after you've signed up. So this is the Trojan Horse Welcome Package. And this works extremely well. At least the sample that I remember, Almost every time we did it, it was a big winner against very strong magalogs and other types of packages. Here was another example of that same principle. It's very subtle, doesn't scream lots of bullets, it just says your special report and close. Now that's been used a lot now because this was done a number of years ago and it's been copied. But look at the inside. Again, this will give you an edge over people who are just going this far. The inside of the package is another very glossy looking, just like a premium that you might get when you do subscribe. And it says, this is kind of even sneakier, it says, your special report and close and thank you. Well, you know, you get that's on the top of your mail. If you pull that out, well, it sounds for all the world that I must have subscribed. And so you're allowing the reader, and this is why I say it can be sneaky. It's totally ethical. There's nothing, you're not saying anything that's not true, but you're allowing somebody, reading the headline, just getting past that I got to toss it out syndrome. Because then in a copy, it says something like, you know, I put 38 of my best ideas into this report to show you, and in all, I wanted to make it highly rewarding for you to take a few minutes now to review these ideas. I also want to thank you in advance for doing so, because sharing these ideas with you is the best way I know to introduce you to my newsletter, Forecasts and Strategies. So you pay off the thank you very clearly, and it's nothing unethical at all, but you, in a way, allowed the person to think, oh, it's supposed to be a welcome package. I better, you know, maybe I paid for this, I better read it. So you do get past the massacre at the tossing stage. You survive that cycle. And then the inside, the acquisition piece looks just like a premium. Hands off Washington, 38 ideas in 16 minutes on how to get big government out of your wallet and off of your back. And he shares many of his best ideas with many of them saying, well, for complete details, you have to subscribe and I'll give you, but I just wanted to give you the overview. And so I'm going to wrap up on this soon. This is what's come to these names. When Vicki and I did this our first Magalog together, Vicki said, well, what should we call this format? You know, the production people need a name. And I said, coined a rather ugly name, a Magalog. I said, it looks like a magazine, but it sells like a catalog. Why don't we call it a Magalog? And that's how that got named. I think really Jim Rutz and Ed Elliott probably should have named it. They invented it. But that's how it got named. And this became, and then looking like a book became a bookalog. And this, unfortunately, has become known as an issue log, which is massacring the English language. But this is a newsletter. This is selling a newsletter, and it looks just like a newsletter inside. And you mentioned some of the important things that are covered in the enclosed report, enclosed bulletin. Okay, the same thing applied here for commodity option newsletter. You can make it look like something valuable, you'll sell a lot more. When Pauline and I bought a home in Garden City, the man who came to insure the home said, what do you do for a living? So I've learned, you don't say, I write direct mail, because then they say, oh, like penny savers, that kind of thing? I'm sure some of you have been through this. No, I don't write direct. I don't have anything to do with penny savers. Cents off coupons? No, not cents off coupons. Subscriptions for newsletters and other. Oh, you write the newsletter? No, forget it. And so what I've learned to say is, and copywriters who are looking for business, this is a great tool if you're looking to have other practices, parts of your practice. You just say, do you know how every business likes to get new business? And you'll see the questioner's eyes light up. Oh, yeah. He said, well, I know everything there is to know about how to get new business. And so as soon as I said that to him, kind of just to answer his question, he said, can you get new business for me? So I had a sort of little gleam in my eye as well, because we had just bought this big home and had a big mortgage with it. And I had this idea. There are a lot of local markets. The samples that I've been showing you so far are with the very major national markets, mass marketers rather, Philips, KCI, Boardroom, and so on. There are lots of ways you can make money from people who have a local practice. I know we have some people in the room who help. One fellow helps other pizza parlors make business. He's run a pizza place. We have a dentist who teaches other dentists how to do their marketing properly. And that's true for financial planners. There are a lot of people who have no idea in your local community how to advertise. And so the gleam in the back of my eye said, you know, he's an insurance agent. I bet you I could create, in fact, I said, well, what is the market you'd most like to crack? And he said, oh, physicians. I could sell them malpractice insurance all day long. So I created this little, I said, I'll make a deal with you. I'll create a very nice advertising campaign for you. Don't pay me anything, but when it works, I want you to be a testimonial so that when I franchise this across the country to every insurance agent who wants to have a similar business, have a similarly effective marketing campaign, you're going to be my testimonial if it works. And he said, that's a great deal. I'll have to go for that. And that is a very good way to build wealth. I mean, once you did establish a format that can work for somebody locally, well, then you could just package that and sell it again to 1,000 communities across the country. So if you sell something for $5,000 to a local real estate agent in each of 1,000 communities, you've just made yourself $5 million for a single piece of copy. So the leverage there is tremendous. It'll work much better on the internet because I've discovered with my insurance broker friend, these folks are not direct mail people. So that when I tried to get him to do the list right, he thought he knew better, and he would send it to the wrong list. I gave him a letter. It was a takeoff on the Gary Halbert dollar enclosed. Is Gary here, by the way? Oh, there's, hi, Gary. How are you? The takeoff on the Gary Halbert letter of a dollar enclosed. To try to be a little more creative, rather than just swiping Gary's letter, I enclosed a $2 bill with my letter for him. And what he did, see, these are not direct mail people, and they tend to not listen. So these local marketers, they tend to not listen, and they think because they think they know better. And what he did is he printed his big letterhead across every page of the letter. And I said, why did you do this? And like many clients, he said, well, look, I did it already. The printing is paid for. I'm going to send it out. So I said, but it's not going to work that way. So he said, well, if it doesn't work, I'll do it again the way you want me to do it. I said, look, I put in a lot of work on this, and you're getting a free ride just to be, I wanted you to do this right. So he didn't listen. So naturally, it didn't work. And I said, well, you're going to do it the right way. Well, no, it didn't work. Why should I invest any more money in it? So that's the frustration you run into when you're dealing with local people who are not really good marketing people. But on the internet, that's a lot easier. You don't have to get them involved with renting mailing lists and doing direct mail production. Those things are very technical, and they'll always screw up in these markets that you can franchise. But the opportunity there is tremendous to do that. Who wouldn't want to sell the same piece of copy that's working over and over? And that could be an annuity. I mean, once people see a local real estate broker finds out, gee, you really do bring in great leads and great homes for me to sell, they'll want to spend another $5,000 with you coming year. So if you have 1,000 people doing that you just have a $5 million income from updating a good piece of copy and making sure that it works for them. And that's much easier on the internet with e-zines and other things that don't get involved with having them get in, have to do their own mailings and rent mailing lists. But anyway, that's, and I mentioned the secret of the wise old salesman to reinforce that idea about the internet, because one of the best salesmen I ever worked for was a really top producer for Merrill Lynch. Not far from this building, in fact. He had this midtown territory, and boy, could he sell. And his secret was, look, I don't try to put heavy pressure on anybody. I'm just incredibly persistent. He says, in fact, it takes me an average of 9 phone calls before I will connect with somebody. And so he would get a list of top executives, and there are many of them in this neck of the woods of Manhattan. And he would call them and said, look, I've got a nice idea. I've done very well with clients at your income bracket. If you'd like, I'll share an idea the next time I have one with you. And usually they'd blow him off. The secretary would, or assistant would say, no thanks. But he would just call back every month. So he said it would take about 9 calls finally for somebody to say, he's called. 8, let me take a message. Who knows what? Persistence has a magical way of making people's resistance go away. And this is the way it was done in those days when he would be telemarketing. And usually he would get a yes on the 9th phone call, sometimes the 12th. But it was worth it in his case. He would call it hunting the elephant, because he was going after elephant-sized clients, people with massive amounts of wealth. And if one of them became a client, they would give him commissions in very large amounts. So it was worth it to him. And he said, that's the way I get my business. I'm very successful. You can do that much better on the internet now than you can with telephoning, because you're not allowed to telephone anymore in most cases, but also because it's just much more effective. And just through an e-zine where you're offering information, you're not badgering somebody as a pesky salesperson, you're offering value through an e-zine. So if you're not doing an e-zine and using the e-zine as high value, not as just another sales tool. Most of the e-zines I get, and I subscribe to a lot of e-zines because I buy almost every product that's out there, I get tons of them, and most of them are way overselling. The ratio, like in the magalogs and other information and direct mail, offline advertising, I've always tried to strike a balance of give away half of your real estate with really great information, the most intriguing, titillating, interesting, valuable information you can find about your product, and save about half of the real estate to sell the next step. I think the ratio is much different online. I think if you follow that ratio, it's still too much selling online. People are so wary of opening emails just to be sold something that it's so much different than it was just, say, 2 or 3 years ago. The opt-in rate, as you were mentioning, Christian, yet last night, that the opt-in rates are much lower. Christian and I just bumped into each other last night. That's why you didn't miss any meeting, except between Christian and me. But I would give away lots more. Like my own e-zine, I'm not an affiliate for anyone or push other people's products. And I realized that since I'm retired now, I'm not out there really hawking a lot of products. But I had in mind someday I would like to have a seminar like this, my farewell seminar. And I don't think I'll ever be doing this again. So this is a special meeting. I'm glad you're all sharing this time with me. We might sell the video someday, I'm not sure, but you'll get the videos, and this is the last time, I believe this is the last time I'm doing this. But I always knew I wanted to do this because I'm retiring. So let me, and I wanted to share my knowledge as well in the e-zine, the bullets. I assume everybody's getting the bullets or trying to get the bullets so that the spam filters don't block the messages. In the e-zine, you should have a balance that's much more to the maybe 90-10 or 80-20, not 50-50, because I think then you're selling too much. In my e-zine, I think I even just mentioned that I'd have a seminar and just asking for a survey, and most of you came from that. Thereafter, because I sold so little before that, it was like a pond full of fish that, getting back to our analogy, that had never seen a hook or a lure before. Not that I regard you as fish, please. But in terms of, I mean, every analogy will always break down at some point. And I have to explain myself out of this one. So anyway, this is wrapping up now, the most important lesson on how do you open the sale, and we're going to very soon get into closing the sale. How do you open the sale, make your advertising itself valuable?